The first time I realized my husband might actually be serious about leaving me, I was standing in our kitchen with a half-burnt grilled cheese in my hand. The toaster clicked, the smell of charred bread hung heavy, and David, usually calm, methodical David, was shoving shirts into a suitcase on the floor. His movements were jerky, desperate, like someone trying to pack away their sanity before it slipped through their fingers. "David," I said, the words catching like splinters in my throat. "What are you doing?" He didn't look up. Just folded another shirt, creased, uneven, and shoved it in. His voice came out quiet, controlled. "Leaving before I say something I can't take back." The room tilted slightly, a dizzying mix of disbelief and dread. "You're not serious," I said, trying to laugh, but my voice cracked halfway through. "You're mad because I went to lunch with Ethan? You've been paranoid about him for months." Finally, David looked up. His eyes weren't the furious kind of red I expected. They were hollow, tired, as if something in him had already broken before this moment even began. "Not paranoid," he said softly. "Just tired of being made to feel crazy." I froze, fingers tightening around the plate until I heard it clink. This wasn't the usual argument. This was something else. Ethan had been my best friend since college. Smart, effortlessly funny, the kind of person who could make a stranger feel like they'd known him forever. We'd always had that easy, teasing banter that people sometimes misread. But I'd never crossed that line. Not really. Still, I could admit, at least to myself, that I'd enjoyed the way Ethan made me feel seen. Especially lately, when David had grown distant, buried in work. His smiles coming less often. His hands feeling foreign on my skin. Ethan noticed the things David didn't. My new haircut, my favorite coffee order, the way I rubbed my ring when I was anxious. He'd joke that if David didn't appreciate me, someone else would. And I'd laugh. Every time. Because that was what friends did, right? Laugh it off. Pretend it meant nothing. I followed David down the hall, the air thick with tension. The rhythmic zip of the suitcase made my chest ache. "David, please," I said, grabbing his arm. "You're blowing this out of proportion. Ethan and I are just friends. You know that." He looked at me then, really looked. There was no rage, just resignation. The kind that made you feel like every word you said was already too late. "Then why does it feel like I'm sharing you with him?" he asked quietly. My mouth opened but nothing came out. "You text him more than you talk to me. You tell him about your day, your fears, your dreams. You laugh at your phone in bed while I'm next to you. And when I ask, you say I'm insecure." "I didn't mean to make you feel that way," I whispered. "No," he said. "You just didn't care if you did." That one hit hard. That night after he left. Yes, he actually left. I sat on the edge of our bed and stared at the empty space beside me. The silence was so thick it pressed on my chest. Every noise outside felt intrusive. The ticking clock, the faint hum of passing cars, the soft whimper of our dog at the door. For the first time, I wondered if I had really been cruel. Not in a loud, obvious way, but in the quiet kind. The kind that chips away at someone without you realizing. I replayed every argument in my head. The way I'd rolled my eyes when David asked where I was. The way I'd laughed with Ethan when David got jealous, mocking him for acting like a cliché. I'd even told Ethan once, half joking, "David's just not fun anymore. He treats marriage like a job." And Ethan had smirked. "Maybe he's just not the right coworker." At the time I laughed. Now I wanted to crawl out of my own skin. Days passed. David didn't answer my texts. Didn't come home. Ethan called, of course. His voice smooth and casual like always. "Hey, you okay?" I heard things got tense. I hesitated. He left. Then a soft exhale. "I'm sorry. You don't deserve that." Something in his tone made me uneasy. It wasn't empathy, it was opportunity. The kind of sympathy that doesn't comfort. It prowls. "You can crash at my place for a few days," he offered. "Just until you figure things out." "No," I said quickly. "I'll be fine." He chuckled. "You sure? You sound shaken." I hung up before I could think of an answer. That night, David finally texted. Just one line. We need to talk. Tomorrow. 8 p.m. Barely slept. My mind ricocheted between hope and dread. Maybe he was coming home. Maybe this was the beginning of a hard but honest conversation. Or maybe it was the end. When the clock struck 8, he arrived. No suitcase, no expression. Just David in his usual gray sweater, looking strangely calm. He sat on the couch, hands clasped, eyes on the floor. I want you to hear something, he said, pulling out his phone. My pulse quickened. What is it? He tapped play. Ethan's voice filled the room. First it was faint, muffled. The sound of glasses clinking, laughter. Then Ethan again, closer, lower. If he doesn't treat you right, you know I would. I'd never make you feel invisible. Then my own voice, laughing softly. You'd make a terrible husband, Ethan. His response came fast, flirtatious. Maybe, but I'd still know how to make you happy. My heart stopped. The recording ended. I couldn't breathe. Where did you get that? Doesn't matter, he said flatly. That's what you sound like when you talk to him. It was a joke, I said, desperate. We were joking. Were you? His tone was deadly calm. Because I don't think you realize how easily jokes become excuses. Tears stung my eyes. You're twisting this. No, he interrupted. His voice breaking for the first time. I'm done twisting myself just to stay beside someone who doesn't even see me anymore. He stood, his shadow stretching across the living room floor. I came tonight to give you this chance to tell me the truth. Do you want this marriage, or do you want him? I don't want him, I said instantly, but it sounded weak, rehearsed. I love you. He nodded slowly like he'd been expecting that answer, but not believing it. Then prove it. How? I whispered. Cut him off. Tonight. That should have been simple. It wasn't. I stared at my phone, Ethan's contact glowing on the screen. Memories flashed like shards of light. Our late-night talks, the jokes, the comfort. The way he made me feel understood when David felt distant. The thought of ending that felt like losing a limb. But David's face, his eyes full of quiet devastation, haunted me more. I texted Ethan. We can't talk anymore. I need to fix my marriage. He replied almost instantly. You're making a mistake. He doesn't deserve you. I blocked him before I could respond. For a few days things were quiet. David stayed distant but present. We shared space again, cautiously, like strangers relearning how to breathe around each other. He didn't touch me, didn't smile, but he was there, and that was enough for now. I thought maybe, just maybe, we could rebuild. Until the message came. From an unknown number. Attached, a photo. It was me, laughing, leaning close to Ethan at a cafe, our hands almost touching across the table. And beneath it, a single line. You can delete my number, but not your secrets. My blood ran cold. I stared at the message for a full minute before I could even move. The photo wasn't scandalous. No kissing, no touching, nothing technically incriminating. But it was intimate. Too intimate. The kind of moment that meant more than it showed. My heart pounded so loudly it drowned out the world. The air in the living room felt heavy, electric, almost humming with accusation. David was in the shower. I could hear the water running upstairs. My mind raced, torn between deleting the photo and confessing before he saw it first. But my fingers trembled as I tried to decide which would make me look guiltier. I opened the message again. The number was unlisted. No name. Just the photo and that cruel line. You can delete my number, but not your secrets. Ethan. Had to be him. A wave of nausea twisted through me. I'd thought blocking him would end things cleanly, like snipping a thread. But this was his revenge. His way of punishing me for choosing David over him. I deleted the text. Then the photo. Then emptied the trash folder. It felt cowardly, but I couldn't let David see it. Not after everything. Not when we were finally starting to mend. The next morning he was quieter than usual. Coffee, silence, the scrape of spoons against ceramic. Then, out of nowhere, he said, "Did you talk to him again?" I froze mid-sip. "What?" "Ethan," he said, eyes still on his mug. "You've been tense. Checking your phone." "I'm just anxious," I lied. He nodded, slow, deliberate. "You always were a terrible liar." The words hit me like a slap. I wanted to protest, to say he was wrong, but deep down I wasn't sure he was. "David, please," I said softly. "I didn't do anything." "I know," he murmured, looking up at last. "But I think you wanted to." My throat tightened. "That's not fair." He gave a sad smile. "Marriage isn't fair. It's just whatever's left when love runs out." Then he stood, kissed the top of my head mechanically, and went to work. All day I couldn't focus. My chest buzzed with dread, guilt, and a strange kind of grief I couldn't name. I missed David even though he was right there in my life. I missed the man who used to reach for my hand first, not his phone. By evening I decided to tell him about the message. To come clean even if it made me look worse. I owed him that much. But when I got home he wasn't there. His car was gone. His phone went straight to voicemail. By midnight panic had set in. I called his best friend Mark, no answer. I called his office, his parents. Nothing. My brain swirled with every worst-case scenario. Accident, affair, or maybe he really had just left this time. At 1:07 a.m., I heard the garage door open. I ran downstairs, heart hammering. David stood there, eyes glassy, smelling faintly of whiskey and cold air. He didn't look at me. "Where were you?" I demanded. "Out." "Out where?" He set his keys down on the counter with careful precision. "With Ethan." The world went silent. I laughed because the alternative was screaming. "You're joking." "I called him," David said quietly. "Told him I wanted to talk man to man. About boundaries." "David, why would you?" "Because I wanted to see him," he interrupted, his voice trembling. "To see the man who got more of you than I did." My knees nearly gave out. What did he say? He met my eyes then. The calmness in his face terrified me more than anger ever could. "He told me everything." The room tilted. "Everything what?" "That you called him crying after I left. That you said you felt trapped. That you wished you could start over." I shook my head furiously. "He's lying. I never said that." David took a slow step forward. "He showed me the texts." "No," I whispered, the word falling apart in my throat. "He must have faked them. They were time-stamped, Maya." My name sounded foreign on his tongue, like something fragile that had already broken. I grabbed my phone, scrolling through my old messages, desperate to prove myself. But they were gone. Deleted. Every conversation with Ethan. Erased when I'd blocked him. And suddenly I understood. He'd saved them. Screenshotted them. Twisted my words. "I didn't mean what I said," I whispered. "I was venting. You'd left, I was confused, and he comforted me." David's jaw tightened. "So you did say it." The silence that followed was suffocating. Every breath I took felt like a confession. He turned away, running a hand over his face. "You mocked me, Maya. You laughed when I told you how he made me feel. You said I was insecure, jealous, pathetic. But tell me, what am I supposed to feel now?" Tears blurred my vision. "Please don't do this. Don't let him ruin us." "He didn't ruin us," David said quietly. "You did." He slept in the guest room that night. The distance between us was only 30 feet, but it might as well have been a continent. I lay awake listening to the faint sound of him turning in bed, every movement a reminder that I'd lost the right to touch him. By morning I'd decided on one last chance. I'd meet Ethan. Not to rekindle anything, but to end it cleanly, to make him stop interfering in my life. He agreed immediately when I texted him from a new number. One conversation. Public place. Then you disappear. We met at the Riverside Cafe near the bridge. The same place we'd once laughed over coffee, before everything turned poisonous. He smiled when he saw me. That same charming, infuriating smile. Guess I win after all. You didn't win, I said coldly. You destroyed everything. His grin faltered. You're overreacting. He was never good for you. You and don't, I snapped. You don't get to rewrite what happened. You used me. He leaned back, eyes narrowing. Used you. You came to me. You talked to me. You flirted. You told me things you couldn't even say to your husband. My voice shook. Because I thought you were my friend. He smirked. Friends don't text each other at midnight, Maya. I slapped him before I even realized I'd moved. The sound cracked across the table, sharp and final. People turned to look. I didn't care. I stood shaking, tears burning down my face. You don't get to define me anymore, I said, voice trembling but strong. And you don't get to destroy what's left of my marriage. I walked away before he could answer. When I got home, David was packing again. But this time it wasn't just a threat. The suitcase was full. The closet half empty. Please, I whispered, voice breaking. I ended it. For real this time. You don't understand what he did. I understand perfectly, he said softly. He treated you like someone worth listening to. And I stopped doing that years ago. Froze. What? He sighed, setting down a folded shirt. I spent so long working late, thinking I was providing, building something for us. But the truth is I was hiding. From you. From myself. It was easier to stay in the office than to come home and realize we'd become strangers. Tears blurred my vision. Then stay. Let's fix it. He smiled sadly. We already broke it. Now we just have to admit it. He zipped the suitcase. I'm not leaving because I hate you, Maya. I'm leaving because I still love you. And that's what makes it hurt too much to stay. He left quietly. No slamming doors, no shouting. Just the soft click of the lock and the echo of footsteps fading down the hall. 4 hours I sat on the floor beside that empty closet, replaying every moment that had brought us here. The laughter, the mockery, the warnings I'd ignored. How easily I'd dismissed his pain until it became my own. The sun was rising when my phone buzzed one last time. A message from an unknown number. It was a single photo. David standing outside the airport, looking straight at the camera. No words. No explanation. Just closure. Weeks later, I still sometimes catch myself typing his name out of habit. Still imagine what it would have been like if I'd stopped laughing long enough to listen. People think betrayal always starts with secrets or kisses or lies. But sometimes it begins with something quieter. Something you don't even recognize as cruelty until it's too late. Mockery. Dismissal. Neglect. Those are betrayals too. And now, every time I see a couple sitting across from each other at a cafe, one laughing too loudly while the other looks away, I think of that night in the kitchen. The suitcase, the silence, the moment I realized love doesn't always end in anger. Sometimes it just leaves.